Let's start with technical session 1 in presence of all the respective dignitaries. Now I would like to call upon Aditya Dubale, the National Education Policy and Professional Education.
Warm greetings to one and all present here. This is Aditya Dhoble, and today I am going to present a paper on National Education Policy NEP 2020, also on behalf of Dr. Bharti Wadekar and our respected principal Dr. Sharad Fulari. So let's get started with it. Starting first with the introduction, the National Education Policy of Asian Country 2020 that was approved by the Union Board of Asian Country on 29 July 2020 outlines the vision of the latest education system of Asian countries. The new policy replaces the previous national policy on education 1986. The policy could be a comprehensive framework for educational activity to instruction, furthermore as education in each rural and concrete Asian country. The policy aims to rework India's education system by 2040. In Georgian calendar month 2050, a committee below former Board Secretary T.S.R. Subramanian started the consultation method for the new education policy, supported the committee report in June 2017. The draft NEP was submitted in 2019 by a panel diet by former Indian House Analysis Organization, that is ISRO, Chief Krishna Swamy Kasturingan. Professional education. Professional education could be a formalized approach to specialized coaching during a skilled college so that participants acquire content, information, and learn to use techniques. Though content is what the participant is anticipated to find out by attending skilled colleges, such associate education additionally helps the participants acquire the competencies required for correct observe and behavior. Some common goals of skilled education embody incorporating the information and value basic to an expert discipline, understanding the central ideas, principles, and techniques applied in practice, attaining level of competency necessary for accountable entry into skill practice, and acceptive responsibility for the continued development of competency. Role of skilled education. The essence of expertise is the delivery of a service in response to a social want. The skilled education could be a response to society's demand for professional facilitation provided by competent individuals. The expansion and development of a profession could be operate of specific desire and also the role of the skill changes attributable to changes in society. Skilled education aids response to dynamical demand and provide impetus to the dynamical sphere itself. Equalization, a forward look with the reality of the current skilled education, is so reactive and initiating. It should additionally involve vital and knowledge domain thinking, discussion, debate, research, and innovation. Skilled education should be restricted to the core specialty. Professional education is associated integral part of the general instruction system. Agricultural universities, legal universities, health science universities, technical universities, and establishment in alternative fields shall aim to provide multidisciplinary establishments. Following slides are the field in skilled education quoted by the NEP 2020. Agricultural education and veterinary science. Agricultural education with allied discipline is going to be revived, though agricultural universities comprise about 9 by 11 of all universities within the country. Ingress in agriculture and allied science is a smaller amount than one chronicle of all ingress in instruction of each capability and quality of agricultural and allied disciplines should be improved so as to extend agricultural productivity through better skilled graduates and technicians. Innovative analysis and market-based extension joined to technologies and practices. The preparation of access in agricultural and veterinary science through programs integrated with general education are going to be enhanced sharply. The look of agricultural education can shift towards developing professionals with the flexibility to grasp and use native information, lore, and rising technologies, whereas being cognizant of vital problems like declining land productivity, temperature change, food sufficiency for our growing population, and etc. Legal education. Legal education has to be competitive globally, adopting best practice and class new technologies for wider access and timely delivery of justice. At a similar time, it should be told and lit with constitutional values of justice, social, economic, and political, and directed towards national reconstruction through instrumentation of democracy, the rule of law, and human rights. The curricula for legal studies should mirror socio-cultural context together with, in associate in nursing evidence based manner, the history of legal thinking, principle of justice, The apply of jurisprudence and different connected content befittingly and adequately. Attention education. Healthcare education has to be re-envisioned so the period, structure, and style of academic program ought to match the role needs that graduates can play. Students are going to be assessed at regular intervals on well-defined parameters primarily needed for operating in medical care and in secondary hospitals on condition that individual exercise its selection in attention. Our attention education should be integrative, that means thereby every one student of medical aid medical education should have a basic understanding of writing, yoga and treatment, Unani, Siddha and medical aids, that is Ayush and Contravise. Technical education. Technical education includes degree and certificate programs in engineering, technology, management, design, city planning, pharmacy, building management, line of work technology that square measure essential to India's overall development. There will be not solely to be large demand for qualified hand in this sector. However, it will conjointly need nearer collaborations between trade and better education establishment to drive innovation and analysis in this field. Moreover, the influence of technology on human endeavor is predicted to erode the silos between technical education and different disciplines too. The focus also will be in making ready professional in which square measures as that are quick gaining promisance like AI, 3D machining, huge knowledge analysis, and machine learning, additionally to genomic studies, biotechnology, applied science, neurobiology, with necessary application to health settings and property living, which will be plain woven into college boy education for enhancing the employability of the youth. Summary. Professional education educates the new generation of access, increasing the frontier of information and reaching move into service to society. Skilled education is more and more being known as upon to play a big role within the administration of latest programs at interval, continued, and new structures. The job chop dynamical society within which professionals exist demand that they conceive to maximize work performance. There's no single model that is an example program. Their square measures several programs that serve the varied desire of access. United Nations agencies square measure forward completely different role and larger responsibilities. Skilled education may be a long method and continues to boost trade programs to assess from competent staff for the 21st century. References. For this paper, we took 33% of references from United States, while the rest 67 from India. Acknowledgement. We would like to thank everyone for carefully listening to us and all the dignitaries for their valuable attention, as well as providing us the stage to present our presentation. Thank you. Thank you.
Now I would like to call upon Abhishek Jha, Transforming Education Through Technology, NEP 2020.
Warm greetings to everyone present over here. This is Abhishek Jha from ZSCTS Thakur Shyamlar and Degree College. And this is my research paper that I has been doing under the assistance of Dr. Bharti Wadekar. So the topic for the research is transforming education through technology. And this is comes under NEP 2020. So let's see about the abstract of the topic. That is online and distance learning, ODM. Mode of education is expected to be three basic yet distinctive purposes of equity, expansion, and excellence in education to achieve our national goal of education for all without compromising on quality of education. So India has emerged as a world leader in ICT, information and communication technology. We are moving towards a digital society and knowledge economy through Digital India campaign. Role of education is vital in this transformation, where usage and integration of technology at all levels will be of paramount importance. This paper examines the provision of technology initiatives adopted by National Education Policy 2020 for education sector in general for all ODL mode of education in particular. It also discussed its likely fallout effects that we had been thinking about. So the introduction part goes with the National Research Policy 2020 unveiled by the Ministry of Human Resources and Development is revolutionary in every sense. While the policy focuses on multiple aspects, including the need for early childhood care, inclusive education and revamping of the current curriculum, an inherited thread that runs through the policy is the interplay of education and technology. Over the last decade, India Over the last decade, India has transformed itself into an information-intensive society. And there is a growth requirement to embrace the usage of technology in the field of education. In this regard, the policy notes that one of the central principles steering the education system will be the extensive use of technology in teaching and learning, removing language barriers, increasing access, as well as education planning and management. In the current pandemic circumstances due to COVID-19 and all of the different lockdown situations that we had been, with virtual learning replacing in-person learning experiences, students and teachers have been compelled to reimagining conventional learning and teaching techniques. Induction of the policy at such a critical juncture is significant as it details the vision of education for future generations and will be quite essential tool towards building a self-reliant India. Information communication technology is a prime resource to overcome the limitations in online distance learning mode of education, such as remote locations of the learners who are in large number, wherein the institution has to provide various services to the learners at different stages of a student learning life cycle with limited human resource. The various stages of student learning life cycle are first, admission stage, second, learning stage, third, evaluation stage, and fourth is the certification stage. And it all has been comprising with the different aspects of the online learning policy and national education policy that we have been going through. Primary education. The policy recognizes the importance of technology in aiding teachers, bringing the language barrier between teachers and students, creating digital libraries, popularizing language learning, as well as ensuring greater access to education, specifically for different able children. It is also proposed that coding to be introduced in school curriculum as an important skill that all students must develop, and different organizations has been working through the same process. The policy also notes that technology can be effective tool in facilitating teacher education and increase the utilization of technology platforms for online teacher training. The need for embrace technology in professional education, legal help, and it is very important. The aim of achieving 100% literacy by introducing quality technology-based option for adult learning. The policy recognizes the importance of technology in addressing various societal challenges and seek for promote interdisciplinary research, and different higher education institutions have been encouraged to set up the startup incubation centers and technology development centers, and the National Research Foundation is also proposed to be set up, cultivate a culture of research. Administration of education also came in the background of for the creation of the academic bank of credit, which to digitally store academic credits earned from various HEIS to facilitate the grant and degrees based on credits earned over a period of time. It is also progressive step induced by the policy. The State's Food Standards Authority, the Higher Education Commission of India, as well as its four verticals: Non-Higher Education Regulatory Council, National Accreditation Council, Higher Education Grants Council, and the General Education Council. These are the interesting criteria of policy, and its focus on utilizing technology to ensure efficiency and transparency. Also adapting to AI. The AI has been in a great demand in this era, and I could say that the policy recognized challenges arising on account of widespread use of artificial intelligence and highlights the need to adopt changes occurring on account of increased use of AI across all the sectors. We can use AI in IT, in medical, in engineering, and everything. AI is one of the most important or crucial stage of the developing of the mankind. It has taken the NETF with identifying and categorizing environment technologies based on their potential and estimated time frame for disruption, and to present a periodical analysis of the same to MHRD, who shall then formally identify such technologies which require appropriate response from the education system. Allied for the emerging disruptive technology, the policy is pioneer as it knows the need to generate awareness as well as conducting research on various aspects of emerging disruptive technologies, including cursors, penetrating to data handling, and the policy calls for investment in digital India for the digital and development of repositories, training teachers to become high quality online content creators, designing and implementing of online assessments, establishing standard for content, technology, and criteria for online teaching learning. The policy envisages the creation of dedicated unit for the purpose of devising the development of digital infrastructure, digital content, and capacity building to supervise the e-education needs of both school and higher education. Technology initiatives in NEP 2020 for online distinct mode or education, ensuring equitable use of technology, NEP 2020, drives the point to read the benefits of online distant mode of education while addressing the drawbacks. So online distance mode of education should adequately address concerns of equity. Teachers in the conventional education system will require special training for online teaching, interaction, and online e-proctor examination. Online teaching has to be embedded with experimentally and activity-based learning to make it wholesome and effective. Key concerns, although the policy has done a stellar job in imbibing technology in education in Indian constitution, this also raises certain concerns which need to be considered. As per a government survey conducted on period July 2017 to June 2018, published in November 2019, in rural India, only 4.4% of households have computers, as against 23.4% of urban households and nearly 14.9% of rural households have internet facility, as against 42% of urban households. So we could see the different numerical aspects of having the e-learning proctors and different things that are needed for the same, like laptops, phones. Internet connection is one of the main aspects that links as a bridge. As per the same survey in rural areas, among persons and 5 years and above 9.9% are able to operate a computer, as against 32.4% in urban areas, and 13.0% of rural users were able to use the internet, as against 37.1% in urban. Researchers also shown that the internet penetration in urban areas is high, but rural penetration is growing at a faster rate. Even then, access to the internet was almost always through mobile in the rural areas. NEP 2020 recommends following key initiative for blending of online distance learning mode of education with regular or conventional education. So these key points are first, pilot studies for online education by national agencies for view of result and continuous improvement. Second, digital infrastructure which is open, interoperability, evolvable for use of multiple platforms to provide multi-point solution. Third, online teaching platform and tools. Saksham Diksha can be extended further to audio, video class, online classes in the need of the hour. A digital repository of coursework content, simulation, games, augmented reality, and virtual reality to be developed for dissemination use for addressing digital divide. Television, radio, communication radio will be deployed for 10 classroom. Such education programs will be made available around the clock throughout the year in different languages. So the conclusion, what we could conclude through all the research that had been through. Integration of technology in ODL is a step in right direction. NEP 2020 drives technology initiative in the education sector and the online distinct learning mode of education in particular, whereas ODL mode of education it provides quality and scope for expansion. A lot needs to be done towards achieving excellence in this mode of education. Top 100 university as per NIRF rankings 2020 have already been allowed by UGC to launch ODL mode of education. Post COVID-19 pandemic, a new blended model of education will emerge, which is necessary and inevitable. Stakeholders like industry partners, content and book providers, education technology players, assisted technology players, ICT infrastructure providers have a lot to offer to educational institutes in terms of research and development. Co-partnerships, collaborations, MOUs, content creation, delivery mechanism, e-proctor examination, assistive drives, and many more to be there in the online distant mode. The policy also presents a significant opportunity for cooperation between the various industry stakeholders and regulatory authorities. Education in this regard, the Internet and Mobile Association of India has recommended partnership between Tech industry with NETF, which will help streamline research and enable the NEP to adopt industry best practices. Overall, the success of policy will be contingent on the means and mode of its implementation, as well as the ability to effectively integrate the objective of the policy within existing initiatives and engaging the relevant stakeholders in the effective delivery of the policy. The policy is mindful that education in the future will involve great dematerialization and digitalization of content for a heightened conversation education system of India. This mindfulness is itself a remarkable feat. So these are the references through which I have completed my paper ROAM, Ministry of Human Resource and Development, Government of India, Mangaldas CA, and all that we can do. Thank you so much. So by this, I conclude my research work and thank you.
Now I would like to call upon Ankit Mishra, NEP 2020, Adult Education and Lifelong Learning.
Namaste presenter. My name is Ankit Mishra, student of Tsdc Thakur Shamlar and Degree College, Kandivali East, Mumbai. Would like to present you my research paper on the topic of adult education and life. Introduction. When we think of education, we usually associate it with the formal education of children, adolescents, and young people, although they are the primary beneficiaries of education under international human rights law. Adults are also recognized right holders. The right to education is like all other human rights, universally applicable to everyone, irrespective of their age. According to the international law, the aim of education includes the full development of human personality and the sense of dignitaries, and to enable all the person to participate effectively in a free society. These aims cannot be met through education delivering exclusively to the students. The right to education therefore recognizes the importance of education as a lifelong process. The earlier years are considered foundation for the lifelong learning, where each level of education lays the building block for the further education throughout a person's life. And learning is an integral part. Right to education comprises of all forms of education and learning that aims to ensure that all adults participate in the society and the world of work. It denotes the entire body of learning process, formal and non-formal and informal, whereby those regards as adults by the society in which they live, develop and enrich their capability for living and working, both in their own interest and those who of their community, organization and the society. Adults may enter education system for a number of reasons, including to missed or neglected primary or secondary education, developing basic education skills such as literacy and numeracy, developing new vocational skills and expertise to adapt the changing labor market condition, or to change career, or for a continuous professional development, continuous learning for a professional development. Thirdly, participate fully in a social life and in democratic process for learning the skills and knowledge necessary to participate in a growing society. Main objectives. Each political and the scientific debates are stressing the growing social group importance of class and home-to-home learning. This discussion is driven by the current economical process, skill-based technology, technical modification, medical care, and also the development of informal societies. As the structural changes are unit of crucial importance of the operating lives of the population in the industrial country, education associated longer and quality achieving youth that continues to be the construction constant that continue to be the constant work throughout an extension and stable employment career. Today, adults got to learn endless to stay up with the flexible needs of the geographical portion and to be ready to find employment in number of and asset dynamic field. To boot, as a result of their aging population in European countries, is resulting in the scare of the elected staff. Home-to-home learning become a lot of necessary because of the demographic changes. A technical to satisfy the demand for dedicated staff is through more education of adults. Thus, class-associated home-to-home learning became an integral part of current and future instruction career. Moreover, this may be a customized, analyzed effect of initial and course of instruction on number of outcomes like marketplace participation and performance, well-being and health. Finally, the event and therefore the effect of competence over their life course are often elective and research will be elaborated on the interrelatedness. Crafting a dynamic life course consisting permanent research to access to extend to that previous competence. Learning environment, instructional selection, a person's migration background, and the social emotional trials Reinforcements instruction participation, the event of competence and academic outcome over the time. So as to realize these objectives and to handle a lot of specific analysis query for the six pillars of NEPS, the adult stage comes to population of all an analysis query. The analysis query for the NEPS adult stage are based mostly primarily on social science and economical individual level theory, on education and marketplace participation like human capital theory, communication theory, and rational selection theory of instrumental selection. These theoretical foundations are extended by approach from the instructional science and child philosophy. The latter are significantly vital for understanding competence, endowment, and development over adulthood, and likelihood of the mix info on competence and endowment. The likelihood of mixed info on competence endowment and development with a non-solo elaborated schooling, coaching, and employment tragedy. However, additional temperature triad, motivation, and development with a non-solo elaborated schooling, coaching, and employment tragedy. However, additional temperature triad, motivation, and attitude makes the SC6 knowledge to novel supply. Endowment and development. A central aim of the NEPS project is to extend data regarding ability endowment, development, distribution, and alter over the course of association degree adults' life in European countries. The SC6 information permits an outline of the distribution of ability endowment in several terms of the adult population, associated degrees analyzed of the developments, and also the factor triggering the acquisition of the recent skill. Psychological features and non-congenital competence or vital determinants of market outcomes like wages, job satisfaction, and state. Moreover, there are crucial tools to deal with the new challenges like medicinal aids, determination of declining and loss of the skills and competence throughout the adulthood will be detected with the SC6 knowledge. Dominant specific psychological feature competence like reading skills and their importance for instructional success or well researched in class training or educational activity setting. Learning environment. Learning environment take issue considerable for respondents with the NEPS adult stage, particularly when we put next to the student and kids in the instructional stages, whereas learning or told low stage of NEPS takes place within the same predefined formal instruction context for a survey response. Adult occurs during a multitude of various learning environments. In Germany, various suppliers supply training of course for adults in formal and non-formal environment. Examples of such suppliers are from state foundation establishments, state agencies, chamber of commerce and craft, education activity establishment, and good vary of non-government organizations. It is difficult to achieve an entire image of relatively about learning supply. Significantly, thanks to countries' federal structure. Conclusion. This short overview has hopefully sparked the listener's interest in the theoretical approach of NEPS adult stage. The data generated with the NEPS stage, Chariot 6, and the Chariot 6 and the empirical study that have analyzed their data so far. The three main objectives of stage 8 are to provide rich data from a life course persistent and adult education on labor market and non-labor relatively returning to education investment. The data collection enables the testing of different theoretical models, and researchers of different discipline and different research programs are invited to develop research questions that may be analyzed with the rich NEPS adult stage data on retrospective life course. Furthermore, the design of the NEPS adult stage allow us for the assessment of the long-term development because life course data have been collected from a large range of birth chariots. Thank you.
Now I would like to call upon Bhanupratap Vishwakarma, Indian Languages, Arts and Culture.
Warm greeting to everyone. This is Vishwakarma Bhanupratap, student of Tsdc Thakur Shamnara Degree College, working under the guidance of Dr. Bharti Wadekar. And today I am here to present my research paper on national education policy to build up an Indian languages, arts and culture. So let's begin with our presentation. So this is the abstract of my presentation, which includes the new education policy approved by the Union Cabinet on Wednesday, proposes the setting up of an Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation, which is IITI, which also links significant emphasis on Sanskrit and other Indian languages. As per the new education policy, IITI will establish that will make extension use of technology to aid in its translation and interpretation efforts. Another feature of this policy is that Sanskrit will be mainstream with offering strong offering in school, including as one of the language options in three language formula, as well as in the higher education. Sanskrit University too will move towards becoming a large multidisciplinary institution of higher learning. India will similarly expand its institute and universities studying all classical language and literature, with the strong efforts to collect, preserve, translate, and study the tens of thousands of manuscripts that has not been yet received their attention. Sanskrit and all Indian languages institute and departments across the country will be significantly strengthened. Classical language institute will aim to merge with university while maintaining their autonomy so that faculty may work and study. So begin with our introduction part. It's heartening to note that national education policy has not only recognized the glorious past of ancient India in terms of contribution of our world-class Indian university like Nalanda and Takshila, but picked up right elements and incorporated and building blocks in the framing of new education policy, both at school level and university level. About 50% of the entire policy document is devoted to this cause. There was need to recognize and draw upon the seminal work of stalwarts like Aryabhat, Banbhat, Bhaskaracharya, Chanakya, and Patanjali, Pingala, Shrusastra, and Shankaradev. Among others, in various disciplines like architecture, astronomy, civil engineering, chess, fine arts, mathematics, metallurgy, and medical science, navigation, and yoga, which appears to have to be addressed. At school level, students will be taught the yoga at the young age, importance of doing what's right, and will be given logical framework for making ethical decisions. A year later, this would then be expanded along the theme of cheating, violence, plagiarism, littering, tolerance, equality, empathy, with a view to enabling children to embrace moral ethical value in conducting one lives, formulate a position about an ethical issue from multiple perspectives and use of ethical practices in all work. Children will have opportunity to read and learn from the original story of the Chandra, Jataka, Hitopdesh, and other fun fables and inspiring tales from the Indian tradition, which influences on the global literature. First is language. Language is a powerful tool. Post-independence, a number of languages are on verge of extinction. Since language is crucial for preserving the heritage and culture of a society, several communities lie at the risk of losing their identity. In order to retain the cultural heritage of the diverse Indian community, it is important to introduce courses on Indian languages in the higher education system. National Education Policy 2020 is set apart from conventional education policy in the sense that aims at the effectiveness deployment of policy in educational institutes. It involves prestigious NGO and organizations at the grassroots level that are willing to participate in the implementation of the new Education Policy 2020. Next is language vocabulary and dictionary. Language is linked to an art and culture. Different languages see the work differently. Language influences the way people of given culture speak with others. Culture is thus encased in our language. Art, in the form of literature, play, music, film, etc., cannot be fully appreciated without language. In order to preserve and promote culture, one must preserve and promote culture's language. For the purpose of cultural enrichment as well as national integration, all the young people should be aware, rich, and various other language of their country. The issue of language, both as a medium, instruction, as well as independence discipline, has been dealt in great detail both at school and higher education level in the new education policy. Way to teach language. All the language will be taught in the enjoyable and interactive style with plenty of interactive conversation and with early reading and subsequently writing in mother language in the early years and with the skill developed for reading and writing in other languages in grade 3 and beyond. The three languages formula will continue to be implemented while keeping in the mind constitutional provision, aspiration of the people, region, and union, and the need to promote multilingualism as well as to promote the national unity. Every student in the country will participate in the fun project activity on languages of India, sometimes in grades 6 to 8, such as under Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat initiative, refers to preserve and promote all Indian languages, including classical, tribal, and endangered language, will be taken on with a new viewer. Next is online portal, web, and wiki. All the languages in India and their associated art and culture will be documented through web-based platforms. In order to preserve endangered and all Indian languages and their associated rich local arts and culture, the platform will contain video, dictionaries, recording, and more of people speaking of the language, telling story, reciting poetry, and performing plays, walks, and dances, and many more things. These preservation efforts and associated research projects in history, archaeology will be funded by National Research Foundation. These directed under Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat. 100 tourist destinations in the country will be identified where educational institute will send students to study the destination and the history, scientific contribution, tradition as a part of augmenting their knowledge about these areas. Next is higher education and scholarship. In addition to the higher quality offering in India languages and English foreign languages such as Korean, Japanese, Thai, French, German, Spanish, Portuguese, and Russian will also be offered at the secondary level for the student to learn about the cultures of the world and to enrich their global knowledge and mobility according to their own interest and aspiration. India will also urgently expand its translation and interpretation effort in order to make high quality learning material and other important written and spoken material available to the public in various Indian and foreign languages. For this, Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation will establish such institute, employ numerous multilingual language and subject experts. The IITI shall also make extensive use of technology to aid in translation and teaching. Courses and programs in subjects such as Indology, Indian languages, IU system of medicine, yoga and arts, music, culture, etc. Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation multi and interdisciplinary of various discipline uses of interactive, entertaining, and experimental learning as a pedagogical method, use of technology, industrialization of Indian arts, culture, and ethos through Indian education system will be developed by this method. Next is art and culture. The art strengthens the cultural identity, build awareness and enhance consciousness, create ability within the individual and increase individual happiness. The new education policy makes an allusion to 64 colors mentioned in the above slides to the underline India's rich art heritage. Language is closely and inextricably intertwined with the arts and culture. The culture of this community is encased in its language. In order to preserve and promote culture, one must preserve and promote its language first. Culture is likened to a house and the language of the door. India has lost to 20 languages in the last 50 years. UNESCO has declared 197 Indian languages as invalid. The 22 languages of 8th schedule on the Constitution of India are also facing serious difficulty on varying scale of many fronts. New education policy implies that language must have constitutional official update to their vocabularies and dictionaries. In the line with the recommendation of Kothari Commission, the new education policy, the need for every early implementation of three language formula to promise multilingualism and teaching in the home or local language wherever it is possible. The objective is to develop and launch suitable programs across the country, including 4-year B.Ed, dual degree in this subject. This will help develop a large grade of high quality language teachers, as well as teacher of art, music, philosophy, and writing, who will be needed around the country to implement this policy. The National Research Foundation will fund quality research in all these areas. Outstanding local artists and craftspersons will be hired as a guest faculty to promote their local art, music, and language, which offers the high teaching bilingually. So let's begin with the conclusion part of this paper. The languages which are on the brink of extinct due to the lack of recognition will be revived and encouraged for speaking, reading, and writing. The education will be more prone to the multilingual learning rather than English or Hindi as a medium of teaching. These changes will increase the employment opportunity for the teachers and the subject matter experts of this language. So this is the bibliography which helped me to write this research paper. Thank you.
Now, I would like to call upon Disha Karkera, Digital Education, Ensuring Equitable Use of Technology, NEP 2020.
Warm greetings to the respected dignitaries. I, Disha Karkera from Thakur Shamnaran Degree College, is going to present a national e-conference on National Education Policy 2020, Digital Education, Ensuring Equitable Use of Technology, NEP 2020. This research was proposed under the guidance of our principal, Dr. Sharat Pulari sir, and our professor, Dr. Bharti Wadekar ma'am. Introduction. The Global Education Development Agenda, reflected in the Goal 4 of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by India in 2015, seeks to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030. In this regard, the National Education Policy 2020 recognizes the importance of leveraging the advantages of technology to improve multiple aspects of education to meet the current and future challenges in providing quality education for all. In epidemics and pandemics, necessitates alternative modes of quality education whenever and wherever traditional and in-person modes of education are not possible. This has brought digital education into prominence, that is providing both teachers and students new opportunities to teach and learn, thereby ensuring greater participation in the overall learning process. Digital education. It is the innovative use of tools and technologies during teaching and learning to enhance the learning experience. It is a combination of technology with digital content and instruction that gives student an element of technology with digital content and instruction that gives student an element of control over time, space, and place. The impact of internet on education as a paradigm shift has helped digital education to take up space and its present form. Trends of digital education in India. Social media. Social media as a learning tool has progressed in a very big way. It is a platform to share and exchange information anywhere, anytime. Interactive learning resources. The proliferation of learning apps. Learning is no longer confined to a conventional classroom setup. The learning process is being rewired with these innovative digital aids. Interactive learning modules using the best of technology are being prepared by education. Digitalized classroom, flipped classroom, a growing trend. A complete revolution in the way we learn today has been brought by technology. Teachers teaching in classroom can capture the students and full strength in class by digital screens, thus facilitating each child to get same base content and input from the teachers. Massive open courses. These platforms are enabling self-learning in a crucial way. Massive open online courses. These platforms are enabling self-learning in a crucial way. It is facilitating the students and working professionals to study their own convenience from anywhere and at any time. A variety of courses duly certified by institutes are offered under this platform. A massive open online course is an online course aimed at unlimited participation and open access via the web. India is considered to be the biggest market for MOOCs in the world after the USA. Video-based learning. This type of learning is becoming popular among students since it combines learning with fun. This medium of teaching learning is highly interactive in nature. Video-based learning as a part of digital marketing has geared up Indian education sector and has made education engaging, entertaining, and exploring. Game-based learning. Game-based learning is the next big thing that will redefine the digital future of education in India. This type of learning creates an environment where the learners can easily relate themselves to what is being taught to them in an engaging way. The digital revolution is bringing radical changes in the way education is being delivered and received. However, all students do not have equitable access to technology. Equitable access to technology refers to all students having access to technology and information, regardless of their ethnicity, socioeconomic status, age, physical ability, or any other quality. It's not only integral, but also a fundamental component to provide opportunities to every student to learn and acquire the knowledge and skills that they need to become digitally savvy citizens. A lack of equitable access to technology and information deprives students from learning experience and limit their opportunities in future. India has the world's second largest system of education. National Education Policy 2020 addresses the concerns of equity in online and digital education and recommended the optimization and expansion of existing digital platforms and ongoing ICT-based educational initiatives to meet the current and future challenges in providing quality digital education for all. Blockers that hinder acquisition of equitable digital education. The unavailability of internet connectivity also blocks the equitable use of technology for education. An accessible, uninterrupted, and high-speed connection is still a dream for many in rural, hard, and remote areas. Thus, quality digital education is not possible. The non-familiarity of teachers and students with digital tools and how to integrate and use them for teaching learning purpose only adds to the hindrance of ensuring equitable access to quality education. Enablers that will promote acquisition of equitable digital education. To achieve equitable digital education in future, focus must be given to the policies that bridge digital divide as well as addressing the challenges discussed above. Unimply to every household will ensure adoption of digital technology by one and all. Low data rates and availability of relatively cheaper handsets will help to address inequities. Faculty development programs covering digital pedagogy that combines digital skills with core principles of teaching learning process should be arranged by the officials. Students should also be nurtured to develop a positive attitude towards digital technology, acquire basic proficiency to engage with digital tools, display safe online behaviors, and follow cybersecurity protocols with digital literacy programs. Suitable digital devices such as tablets and content should be considered, developed, and provided to students and teachers. Advantages of digital learning. Digital learning has become very popular with time. The following are the advantages of digital learning. No physical boundaries. Digital learning has no locational and time restrictions. In digital learning, there is no physical restriction, and the learner can attend the session anytime, anywhere, according to his or her comfort. Digital learning is more engaging experience as compared to traditional learning. Through digital learning, a course can be designed in a way that makes it interactive and fun through the use of multimedia. Learning is cost effective by the way of education as compared to traditional learning. This is directed towards both learners and teachers. In digital learning, here's a good chance that you don't have to pay exorbitant amounts of money to acquire textbooks from school or college. Comfort zone. Comfort zone can be established in digital learning as you can study at the time that suits you. Challenges of digital learning and measure to overcome them. Digital learning has become very popular with a period of time, but it imposes certain challenges which need to be overcome. Someone rightly said, digital learning should be more about the human touch than just machines. The following are the challenges of the digital learning along with the measures to overcome these challenges. Resistance to change. Every improvement has two sides of coin, with one leading to advancement and development and other relates to the certain challenges associated with the implementation of this advancement. Unfamiliarity of employees towards technology is one of the biggest challenges in digital learning, which the managers need to work with it. To overcome this resistance, certain measures can be taken. Refresher benefit. Feature of multimedia learning enables to make the material more engaging and easier to assimilate. Communication is a key to learners' motivation. Classroom which run in the form of seminar and discussion have the advantage of accountability and supervision. One of the most common challenge in digital learning is that left to their own devices, employees may not explore the course material. Incentives. Accreditation of the courses and certification gives employees a tangible goal that benefits themselves as well as the employer. More broadly, any job training that can lead to career advancement or resume building is valuable to today's employee. Key outcomes of digital learning are e-learning should be more focused on knowledge creation rather than merely on knowledge acquisition, as knowledge is the integral part of the century development. Developing collective cultural practices, physical learning is important as learning takes place between people and its cultural surroundings. Along with emotional and cognitive development, well-being and social emotional learning are also essential for the development of students. Instead of computer-supported learning, it should be advisable to talk about the new forms of social-digital participation. This includes media literacy such as using social media and search engines. Conclusion. To sum up, it can be said that digital education is the future of India and it is here to stay and will take the country to a new pedestal of socio-economic growth and prosperity. Thus, it is imperative to understand and be sensitive towards the digital disparity. Careful planning measures will have to be adopted to address these inequities. Closing the gap appears difficult due to the multi-phase nature, but each step we take will bring us closer to attaining equitable digital education for all. Thank you.
Now I would like to call upon Adit Damle, Perception of Higher Education in NEP 2020 to Institutional and Restructuring and Consolidation.
Hello everyone and welcome. My topic for research paper is Perception of Higher Education in NEP 2020 through Institutional Restructuring and Consolidation. This research paper have two parts. NEP 20 Perception of Higher Education in MEV. NEP 20. India reformed the national education in 2020 and developed NEP 2020, that National Education Policy 2020. It is for quality education, economic growth, social justice, social equality, scientific advancement, national integration, cultural preservation, the universal access to quality education. It is for the best way to march forward for our country's rich talents and resources. It is good for the individual, society, and country. NEP 20 goal for the 2030 agenda for the sustainable development is global education development agenda. It is adopted by India in 2015. Goal 4 seeks to Goal 4 seeks to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and to promote lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030. To cope with Goal 4, India implemented National Education Policy. Perception of higher education in NEP 2020 through institutional restructuring and consolidation discussion is there in this presentation. Institutional restructuring and consolidation. NEP 2020 proposes multidisciplinary universities and colleges. At least one multidisciplinary university and college uh, uh, in or near every district. Universities and colleges that offer medium or instruction in local languages, Indian language. NEP proposes 2020 NEP 2020 proposes more multidisciplinary undergraduate colleges, universities, more colleges, faculties with autonomy, more revamping curriculum setup, more pedagogy, assessment, and student support. Institutional restructuring, consolidation, institutional leadership position, career progression based on teaching, research, and service. NEP 2020 to end the fragmentation of higher education, transforming higher education institutions into large multidisciplinary universities, transforming higher education institutions into HEI clusters, transforming higher education institutions into knowledge hubs. Each of such multidisciplinary universities, HEI clusters or knowledge hubs with for the minimum 3,000 to more students. Multidisciplinary universities, HEI clusters, and knowledge hubs. It helps to build vibrant communities of scholars and peers. It helps to break down harmful silos. It helps to students to become well-rounded in arts, creativity, and analytics. It helps developing students in sports. It helps developing students in active research communities. It helps developing resource efficiency and human efficiency. There are 4 stages: autonomous degree granting colleges, granting undergraduate degrees, setting own syllabus curriculum system, setting own evaluation examination system. Thank
Now, I would like to call upon R.T. Singh, National Education Policy 2020 of India and Educational Reforms in East Asia Suggestive Lessons.
Good morning everyone. I am Aarti Singh and I am from Thakur Shamnaran Degree College. I am here to present the topic National Education Policy 2020 of India and Educational Reforms in East Asia Suggestive Lessons. We shall discuss National Education Policy 2020 of India. India reforms the national education in 2020 and developed NEP 2020, that is, National Education Policy 2020. It is for the quality education, economic growth, social justice, social equality, scientific advancement, national integration, cultural preservation, and universal access to quality education. It is the best way to march forward for our country's rich talent and resources. It is good for individual society and the country. The curricular structure of NEP 2020 is Part 1 School Education. It is very important for the basic schooling. Part 2 Higher Education. Part 3 Professional Education. Other key areas of our focus. Part 4 The most important, just as school education, to make it happen. Implementation of NEP 2020. India, one country of Asia, is undergoing the educational reforms by implementing National Education Policy 2020. The implementation of NEP 20 will be guided by the following principles. Some of the principles are: implementation of NEP will be most critical matter. Implementation of NEP is phased manner. Implementation of NEP prioritization, most critical and urgent actions are taken up. The next one, implementation of NEP with comprehensiveness. Fifth one, implementation of NEP will careful planning, joint monitoring, and collaborative implementation between center and states. The next one, implementation with timely infusion at requisite resources, human and infrastructure at financial. Seventh one, implementation of NEP with careful analysis and review of linkage between parallel implementation steps. Education reforms in East Asia, suggestive lessons. The first lesson, education reform system requires complex set of functions at each level, harmonizing of an education. It is difficult to reform design and implementation. It suggests that the strive to clarify the assignment of function simplifies the news process and structure. It also asks to provide mechanism to coordinate and foster a shared understanding of reform at different level of government. Second lesson, the central authority needs to step into a new role to activate to help the successful reform. These roles include setting standards and performance measure for use through the education system. The central government also needs to perform systems planning and forecasting. It is also expected fostering and support from wealthier states, wealthier region, and simultaneous experts. The third lesson, in reforming education system, replacing the appropriate structure and the building the capacity to work within the new arrangements, these are the new challenges. The fourth lesson, dramatic shift in responsibilities and powerful powers are the leads to breakdown of information and evaluation systems. It typically depends on the central government. It will help to fetch information from lower level of government and schools. According to this lesson, an accountable mechanism such as performance information and evaluation system must not be placed and must be function with interactive through active participation. The fifth lesson, to advance education outcomes, education institutes and stakeholders must have greater voice and exercise of some control over education institutes operation. It is about decentralization, increasing local management and techniques. It is also about strengthening voice of the community in the delivered public services. Well, we conclude the topic with, to cope up with Goal 4 SDG 4 of the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development in the Global Education Development Agenda, India implementing National Education Policy 2020. It has high unique fundamental principles. NEP 2020 is having four main parts as Part 1, School Education, Part 2, Higher Education, Part 3, other key areas to focus, and Part 4, to maintain it, to make it happen basically. Well, as you've concluded the topic, thank you so much.
I would like to call upon Sejal Pal, the perceptions of teachers in National Education Policy 2020.
A very good afternoon to everyone. I am Sejal Pal from TYBMS from Thakur Shamnarayan Degree College. Today, I'll be presenting the research paper on National E-Conference on National Education Policy NEP 2020, Perception of Teachers in National Education Policy 2020. This is a research topic. In this presentation, it will be of two parts. Part A will be of National Education Policy 2020 in India. Part B will be divided in Perception of Teachers in NEP 2020. Part A, National Education Policy 2020. It has India reformed the national education in 2020 and developed NEP 2020, that it National Education Policy 2020. It is for quality education, economic growth, social justice, social equality, scientific advancement, national integration, cultural preservation, and universal access to quality education. Moving further with the curricular structure of NEP 2020. Part 1 is the school education. Part 2 is higher education. Part 3 is the professional education. Part 4 is to making it happen. So, school education. School education is basically the 4 years, that is class 9 to 12, age 14 to 18, secondary, 3 years, class 6 to 8, age 11 to 14, that is middle, 3 years, class 3 to 5, age 8 to 11, then 5 years, 2 years, and 3 years it will be segregated, class 1 to 2, age 6 to 8, class preschool, and 3 to 6, that is foundational. Further on with higher education has institutional restructuring and consolidation, holistic education and multidisciplinary education, optimal learning and support for students, internalization, student progression, faculty progression, value education in higher education, vocational education, National Research Foundation for academic research, progression in regulatory system of higher education, combat and stop the commercialization of higher education, effective governance of HEI, effective leadership of HEIS. And the other key areas that is being focused on the professional education as agricultural, legal, healthcare, technical education. Lifelong opportunities with adult education, promotion of Indian languages, promotion of Indian art, promotion of Indian culture, promotion of use of technology and integration, and furthermore. Making it happen is the strengthening the Central Advisory Board of Education CABE, MHRD to redesignate as the MOE, MHRD Ministry of Human Resource Development, MOE is the Ministry of Education, financing, raising educational investment, affordable and quality education for all. Then perception of teachers towards the education policy 2020. Perception of the teacher. Teacher is the instructor, information provider, learning resource developer, trainer, planner, assessor, facilitator, and a role model. Then further moving with NEP 2020 plan, best recruitment of teachers has the quality education, that is depends upon quality teachers, and the quality teachers depends upon quality of teacher education. It restores high respect of teachers. It restores high status of the teaching profession. It results in the best future for our children, best future for students, best future for civilians of national, and ultimately best future for the nation. And that leads to the successful outcome of National Education Policy 2020. Service environment and culture for teachers in NEP 2020. It has service environment and culture for teachers in EIS. Creates a vibrant communities, creates caring communities, creates inclusive communities. Then vibrant, caring, and inclusive communities of teachers, students, parents, principal, support, and staff. Further on, Purpose Continuous Professional Development CPD, that has online platforms to teachers to share ideas and best practices, that has workshop for teacher, local to international, that carries proposed CPD for teachers, also the 50 years workshop for every teacher for every year about experiential learning, arts integrated, sports integrated. planning of career management and progression, that is CMP, that raise salary raises for teachers doing outstanding work. Multiple parameters based system will be developed for assessment of performance in classroom. All stages of school education should organize career management. Promotions, vertical mobility of teachers based on extraordinary performance in educational duties. Training of outstanding teachers will be carried out for academic leadership positions in schools. Then, proposed professional standards for the teachers are National Council for Teacher Education (NCTE) that has reconstructed or restructured new form. Professional Standard Setting Body, that is PSSB, will develop NPST that has vision for approach to teacher education. Teacher education should be 4-year integrated B.Ed degree, 2-year B.Ed program after 3 years degree, 1-year B.Ed program after 4 years degree or PG. This presentation is about the perception of teachers in National Education Policy 2020. MEP 2020 is very main and focused in relation to the teachers. Part B is all about the perception of a teacher. In conclusion, we can conclude that a teacher is a person who helps others to acquire knowledge, skills, and understanding of life process. In National Education Policy 2020, teacher is considered as learning resource planner, assessor, facilitator, and information provider. NEP 2020 made certain provision for development of teacher as a role model. NEP 20 proposed detailed outline for recruitment of teachers, service environment and culture for teacher, continuous professional development, CPD for teacher, career management and progression of teacher, professional standards for teachers, special educators, focus on teacher education. Thank you so much.
Now I would like to call upon Aditya Singh, Early Childhood Care and Education in relation with National Education Policy 2020, 2022.
Hello to everyone. I am Aditya Vikram Singh from TYBMS of Thakur Shamnaran Degree College. I am here to present a research paper on early childhood care. My research paper consists of two parts, that is part A and part B. Part A consists of National Education Policy 2020 in India, whereas part B consists of early childhood care and education, the foundation of learning. Starting with the part A, National Education Policy 2020 in India. India reforms the national education in 2020 and developed NEP 2020, the National Education Policy 2020. Quality education, economic growth, social justice, social equality, scientific advancement, national integration, cultural preservation, and universal access to quality education. It is for the best way march forward for our country's rich talents and resources. It is good for the individual, the society, and the country. There are basically four parts in this. Starting with the school education. School education comprises of starting with age 3 to 6. We have class that is preschool, Anganwadi and Balwadi, which is known as foundational. Next, in the age group 6 to 8, we have class 1 to 2, which is also considered as the foundation. Moving on to the next, we have age 8 to 11, which comprises of class 3 to 5, that is preparatory. And next we have age 11 to 14, that is class 6 to 8, which is known as middle. And after that, we have age 14 to 18, that consists of class 9 to 12, which is known as secondary. Moving on to the next, we have higher education. In higher education, there are different types, that is institutional reconstruction and consolidation, holistic education and multidisciplinary education, optimal learning and support for students, optimal learning and support for students, internalization, student progression, faculty progression, value education in higher education, vocational education, and many more. Moving on to the part 3, we have other key areas to focus, which consist of professional education as agricultural, legal healthcare, technical education. B. Lifelong learning opportunities with adult education. C. Promotion of Indian language. D. Promotion of Indian art. E. Promotion of Indian culture. F. Promotion of use of technology and integration. And the list is so and so. Moving on to the next, we have making it happen. Strengthening the Central Advisory Board of Education, that is CABE. Next, we have financing, focus on implementation of NEP and many other parts. Moving on to the next, that is part B, early childhood care and education. What is ECC? That is early childhood care. Early childhood care includes the child of 3 to 18 years old. It has foundational role in development of child. Early childhood may divide as age 3 to 6 year group child and age 6 to 8 year group child. It is fact that over 85% of child's cumulative brain development takes place up to the age of 6 years. It indicates the importance of early childhood care. It shows the focus on ECC for stimulation of the brain in the early age of child. It ensures healthy brain development and growth of child. Moving on to the next, education policy and stimulation of the brain in the early age of child. Education ensures the healthy brain development and overall growth of the child. ECCE provides to the child of 3 to 8 year old. Education plays fundamental role in development of child at 3 to 8 year old. Education to early child ideally should be flexible, multi-level, multi-dimensional, play-based, activity-based, inquiry-based learning, comprising of alphabets, language, number-based, that is, including the indoor and outdoor play, certain puzzles to activate brain, activities for logical thinking, problem solving, drama, music, and many more. Next, what are the aims of early childhood care education? The first, we have to attain optimal outcome in the physical development of child. Second, to obtain optimal outcome in the motor development of child. Next, optimal outcome in the cognitive development of child. Next, we have the socio-emotional ethical development of child, followed by cultural artistic development of the child. Next, we have to attain optimal outcome in the development of communication in child, language literacy and numeracy in child. Moving on to the next, we have early childhood care education can be delivered through ECIEs, that is early childhood education institutions. The first is stand-alone Anganwadis, Bal Vatika. It is not associated to any primary or primary schools. Second, Anganwadi ECEI. It is co-located with primary school. Third is pre-primary school section ECEI. It is for children of age 5 to 6 years, co-located with existing primary school. Next, stand-alone preschool teachers in the curriculum of ECCE. Next, moving on to the part B. Next topic, we have Anganwadis. Therefore, the flowchart requirement for Anganwadi, that is, the first we have high quality infrastructure, second, play equipment, next, qualified and proper trained teacher, Anganwadi workers, next, well ventilated infrastructure, child friendly interior, child friendly learning environment. Balvatika, preparatory class. It is concept in BCCE for children before class 1. It is for children to the age of 5 years. The Balvatika is treated as the preparatory class in ECCE. The purpose of Balvatika is to develop cognitive abilities of children, affective abilities of children, and psychomotor abilities of children, along with early literacy and numeracy of children. Midday meals to provide along with health checkups. Balvatika should be treated as growth monitoring center for children. The growth monitoring in terms of physical growth monitoring and mental growth monitoring center for children. Next, continuous professional development. Integrated aspects in ECCE CPD is continuous professional development. It is to develop skillful trained teachers for NCRT developed curriculum for CPD. It can be carried out by digital/distance mode by using DTH channels, smartphones. The teachers, Anganwadi workers can acquire ECCE qualification with minimum break disturbance in their current daily duties. The teachers slash Anganwadi workers should have minimum lots qualification. They would be provided with 6 month certificate program in ECCE. Next, again we have women and child development, that is WCD, along with HFW, that is health and family welfare forming a joint task force under MHRD, that is Ministry of Human Resource Development. These all peer bodies will be given responsibilities for ECC curriculum development. It is to ensure its continuity from pre-primary school through primary school. It also ensures due attention to the foundational aspects of education. This was all about the presentation of research paper titled Early Childhood Care Education in Relationship with NEP 2020. It is discussed in the part A as NEP 2020 and part E as Early Childhood Care Education. Thank you each of you for your valuable time. Thank you so much.
I would like to call upon Shruti Desai, the National Education Policy 2020's Academic Bank of Credit, mailing process, marriage.
Hello everybody, my name is Shruti Desai and today I'm here to present a paper on Hello everybody, my name is Shruti Desai and today I'm here to present a paper on National E-Conference of National Education Policy NEP 2020. This paper is written by Dr. Sharat Fulari sir and Dr. Amruta Pawar ma'am. So here I start the paper. And I'm starting it with an abstract. In NET 20, the part 2 deals with higher education. It deals with different steps in reformation of higher education. In reformation steps are mentioned towards a more holistic and multidisciplinary education. For it, in NET 20, the structure and length of degree programs proposed to adjust it accordingly. For this purpose, an academic bank of credit, that is ABC concept, is proposed in NET 20. The meaning, manual process, and merit demerits of ABC is discussed in this paper. First, we start with the curricular structure of NEP 2020. The part 1 is school education, part 2 is higher education, part 3 is professional education. Other key areas of focus, part 4 is making it happen. Now, what is ABC? ABC is Academic Bank of Credits. ABC is one of the provisions of the NEP 20. It is concerned with undergraduate and postgraduate degree courses. ABC will allow UG and or PG students to exit the course and enter within a definite stipulated period. ABC, Academic Bank of Credits, shall deposit credit towards awarded by registered higher education institution for courses learned studied therein. ABC of the students will allow students of UG and PG. ABC is a virtual or digital bank which stores deposit credit earned by individual student throughout his or her academic journey. In ABC, students can open his or her account and get multiple options for entering and leaving colleges or university. It means through ABC, students can avail multiple exits and multiple entries point during the higher education tenure. The academic credit earned by students will be transferred through the ABC. Steps to follow for ABC. First, ABC account opening. Second, courses with credit information. Third, evolution of credit, verification of credit. Fourth, online offline courses for ABC. Fifth, credits validity. Now, what is the workflow of ABC? Workflow of ABC starts with registration of student. They can register on www.abc.digitlocal.government.in. Registration by students by mobile also. 3 unique ABC IDs will be allotted. Then comes login by student. Student can get login by getting OTP on their mobile phone, and student can open ABC dashboard. Student can see credits in his or her accounts on dashboard. Now, transfer of credits. Student can select credit of their choices through the beneficiary assistant. Student can transfer credits. Student has to provide additional detail importance for the process of the credit transfer. Verification, validation status. ABC verifies and validates the transfer of credits. ABC provides notification to students about same. ABC maintains data of all credit transactions. Now, what is the role of academic institution in workflow of ABC? AI, that is academic institution, check the eligibility of the transfer request on the basis of UGC rules and regulations. They may also approve or reject the credit transfer request by students. They give the reasons for approval and rejection in the remarks column. What are the objectives of ABC? First is student-centric, student interest, student-friendly teaching approaches, interdisciplinary approach, uniform national policy. What are the merits of EBC? Student-centric, student interest, student-friendly teaching approaches, interdisciplinary approach are some of the merits of EBC. Now, there are also some demerits, and that ABC regulations will only lead to the delusional and degree of this policy, ignores the key of idea of equity and quality, access, and efficiency. Now, this was all about my research paper on NEP 20's ABC, meaning, process, merits, and demerits. Thank you so much.
Hello, good day everyone. A warm welcome to one and all present here. Let's start with technical session 2. So first we have Jaya Tiwari. She is presenting a paper on study on benefits of NEP 2020 to higher education system in India.
Hello everyone. Today's topic is study on benefits of NEP 2020 to higher education system in India. I, Jaya Tiwari, am the author of the research paper. Abstract. The new education policy declared by the Government of India was a promising amendment and contemporary news amidst all the negativities around the globe due to the challenges posed by COVID-19 pandemic. The announcement of NEP 2020 was surprising by several. The changes that NEP 2020 has counseled were one thing that several educationists never saw coming back. Though the education policy has impact on college and school education equally, this paper principally focuses on NEP 2020 and its impact on higher education. This paper conjointly outlines the salient features of NEP and analyzes if it has an effect on the prevailing education system. Introduction. The National Education Policy NEP 2020, which was approved by the Union Cabinet of India on 29th of July 2020, outlines the vision of India's new education system. The new policy replaces the previous National Policy on Education, 1986. The policy is a comprehensive framework for elementary education to higher education and vocational training in rural and urban India. The policy aims to transform India's education system by 2021. The language policy in NEP is a broad guideline and advisory in nature, and it is up to the states, institutions, and schools to decide on the implementation. The NEP 2020 enacts numerous changes in India's education policy. It aims to increase state expenditure on education from around 4% to 6% of the GDP as soon as possible. The vision of the National Education Policy is National Education Policy 2020 envisions an India-centric education system that contributes directly to transforming our nation sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high-quality education to all. Quality education should aim to develop people in thoughtful, well-rounded, and innovative way. It should train someone to review one or a lot of specialized areas of interest at associate degree in depth level and develop character, morale, and constitutional values, intellectual curiosity, scientific temper, creativity, service spirit, and also the skills of the 21st century across a spread of fields, as well as sciences, social sciences, the arts, humanities, languages, personal, technological, the line subjects. The new education policy brings some elementary changes to this system, and also the key highlights square measure multidisciplinary universities and schools with a minimum of one in or close to each district, revamping student curricula, pedagogy, evaluation, and support for increased student expertise, establishing a national analysis foundation to support glorious peer-reviewed work and effectively seed study at universities and schools. The main issues faced by the Indian education system includes implemented separation of qualifications, early specialization, and student streaming into restricted analysis areas, less concentrate on research at the most universities and faculties, and lack of competitive peer-reviewed research funding and huge related universities, resulting in low levels of undergrad education. Institutional restructuring and consolidation aim to finish the fragmentation of higher education by reworking education establishments into giant multidisciplinary, making well-rounded and innovative people, and reworking alternative countries educationally and economically, increasing the gross enrollment to magnitude relation in education, as well as education from 26.3%, which is in 2018, to 500th by 2035. Holistic multidisciplinary education must try in integrated way to improve all human capacities, which is mental, cultural, social, physical, emotional, and moral. Within the future, such a comprehensive education shall be the strategy for all undergrad programs, as well as those in medical, technical, and line disciplines. Optimum learning environments and support for college students supply a holistic approach as well as adequate program, interactive pedagogy, consistent formative assessment, and adequate support for college students. Better regulation of higher education system. According to the new bill, HECI will not have any financial powers. The funding processes which were handled by the University Grants Commission UGC will be taken care by the Ministry of Education, previously known as the Ministry of Human Resource Development, which is the MHRD. This change, however, is expected to clear the regulatory mess in India's higher education system. HECI is expected to have 4 independent verticals, the first being National Higher Education Regulatory Council, which is the NHERC for regulation, the second being General Education Council, which is the GEC, which is for standard setting, the third one being Higher Education Grants Council, which is the HEGC for funding, and National Accreditation Council, which is the NAC for accreditation. To have uniformity in education standards, a single umbrella body was always a requirement, and this has been a vision of numerous educationists. This is considered as the right step in streamlining education policy. Graded accreditation and autonomy to HEIS. The concept of empowerment and autonomy to innovate is one of the key features in NEP 2020, which supports a phasing out strategy from affiliated colleges to autonomous institutions. The increased flexibility offered to autonomous institutions also gives hope in curriculum enrichment. It also says that with appropriate accreditations, autonomous degree granting colleges could evolve into research intensive or teaching intensive universities if they so aspire. Another important amendment, the NEP 2020 suggests that the National Testing Agency can function a premier expert autonomous testing organization to conduct entrance examinations for college boy and graduate admissions and fellowships in education establishments. The prime quality, range, and suppleness of the NTA testing services can alter most universities to use these common entrance exams instead of having many universities every production their own entrance exams, thereby drastically reducing the burden on students, universities, and faculties, and also the entire education system. It will be left up to individual universities and faculties to use NTA assessments for his or her admissions. It helps the students to simply transfer their degrees and credits to universities abroad. The policy introduces a full gamut of changes and reads mostly as a real progressive document with a firm grasp on the present socio-economic landscape and also the prospect of future uncertainty. Education for a brand new generation of learners should basically have interaction with the increasing dematerialization of economies, which needs a totally new set of capabilities so as to be ready to maintain. This looks to be a fair lot of important perquisite currently with the trend towards digitalization and automation being fostered by the pandemic. Overall, the NEP 2020 addresses the requirement to develop professionals in every field, starting from agriculture to computing. India must be prepared for the long run, and also the NEP 2020 paves the method ahead for aspiring current and future generation of students to be equipped with the appropriate skill set. Thank you.
Next, we have Urvashi Jain. She is presenting a paper on New Education Policy NEP 2020, a roadmap for India 2.0.
Hello everyone, my name is Urvashi Jain from Tsdc, Thakur Shamnaran Degree College. Today I'm going to speak on the topic New Education Policy NEP 2020, a roadmap for India 2.0. Abstract. The National Education Policy 2020 is formulated to revamp education system and lay down roadmap for new India. It was approved in the Cabinet on 29th July 2020. This paper is a maiden attempt to highlight NEP 2020 and study India 2.0 vision towards overall transformation education system to meet the challenges of 21st century. The study is based on secondary data and exploratory in nature. Findings are based on a systematic review of existing literature. It was found that one of the main objectives of NEP 2020 is to increase students' enrollment in all educational institutions, such as elementary school, professional, and higher education by 2030. To achieve that, it has suggested progressive reform in the existing education and governance system. The study is preliminary review of policy document and it can be taken as base for future research with empirical data to study the impact of NEP after its implementation. NEP 2020 is expected to give big lead to higher education in India. The vision is to create India 2.0 for 21st century, which is bound to take leadership role at global arena. A critical analysis of various facets of New Education Policy 2020. Introduction. The new education policy announced by Government of India is welcoming news and a positive development amongst negativities surrounding the world in the COVID-19 pandemic. The first NEP was implemented by India in 1968 and next after long gap in 1986 and recent one under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2020. The National Education Policy 2020 of India was approved on 29th July 2020. It is formulated with a vision to revamp education system and lay down roadmap for progressive educated country. The committee that prepared policy document of the NEP 2020 was headed by former ISRO chief K. Kasturirangan. In its election manifesto of 2014 parliament elections, the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party has promised to bring revolutionary reform in Indian education system. They fulfilled their promise to nation with NEP 2020. Background. International trends and situations are already influencing Indian higher education. From the last number of years, India is attracting good number of foreign students that includes NRIs in bigger numbers, joining various skilled, tutorial and academic programs. Also, many foreign universities are offering to get their degrees without leaving India from their home. There are trends to liberalize university system that enable to reduce gaps for private universities. The nature of programs offered by HEIs have undergone massive transformation and acquisition of mastery level skills and competencies that are in large demand. Degrees generating employment opportunities would be most likely to be opted in future. In this prevalent scenario, NEP 2020 is brought to give thrust to Indian education system and propel it to next level. Objective of present paper is to study the NEP 2020 recently announced by Government of India. The study reviewed the policy document NEP 2020 discusses its guidelines and proposals. It also highlights the policymakers' vision for India 2.0. Methods and limitations. This paper is a maiden attempt to study NEP 2020 and subject to certain limitations as the research is based on secondary data. The results are highlighted to literature review and recommendations have been made. The study can act as a base for future research based on empirical investigations and impacts of NEP 2020. After its implementation can be found. However, this research can be taken as base for further study on different aspects of NEP 2020. Review of literature. Education plays a strong role in building nation. Education decides the future of the nation, the destiny of its people. The impact is going to be a durable one in terms of growth and development of the state and subject. The role of education and its importance can't be ignored in today's scenarios and subject. There are several changes planned in new National Education Policy 2020 that may actually affect all the stockholders. The objective of the policy is to prepare country to face challenges of next decades of 21st century and make India a global hub in education with multidisciplinary and liberal education. The policy has a number of relevant considerations regarding how to provide quality education of global standard, bring equality in education and increase participation of private fields. The proposal of operational and financial autonomy of HEI is a futuristic step ahead. International scenario. China surveying 2008 has addressed the text and discourse analysis and education policy from theoretical and methodological point of view. Trevor Gale and Deborah Tranter 2011 has highlighted traditions, concepts, and practices of social justice in Australian education policy. The importance of empowering students with social justice, equity, social inclusion in higher education is analyzed in the study. The higher education practice in Asia has gone for massive reform for internationalization. This has created opportunities for developing cosmopolitan learning in Singapore's higher education. Cosmopolitan learning is associated with internationalization of education and plays a crucial role in shaping the international students' identities, aspirations, and worldwide. Singapore has got international students from countries of Asia and Europe. In this global era of economic liberalization, internalization of higher education is emerging trend. Features of NEP 2020 scope for higher education. In India, higher education, multiple regulators are going to be united into Higher Education Commission of India, HECI, as single regulator for HEIS. The research and innovation funding in higher education will be supported by National Research Foundation. NEP has mandated for multidisciplinary education model for higher educational institutions. Evaluation and assessment model is also going to change from end semester examination system to continuous assessment system. All HEIs will have to focus on skill education. They also need to have provision for counseling centers with counselors to take care of mental well-being of students. Conventional education is going for massive transformation as it will be market-driven henceforth. Indian government has aimed to establish world-class education institutions and attract lots of international students. Further, the courses completed in foreign universities by a student will be given weightage and considered equivalent in India. Scope for private institutions. It is proposed to give graded autonomy to all non-public universities. This autonomy will be based on the accreditation, participation in research innovation, and quality education delivery. They also would be required to maintain transparent financial data. There should not be any financial irregularity, and predefined system has to put in place to check that. It will be mandatory for private HEIs to provide free ship and scholarship to deserving meritorious students in every course. There would be no discrimination between government and private institutions while granting research funds that should be solely based on merits of the proposal. Benefits of NEP 2020. The NEP 2020 is expected to fill gap in education standard in India. It will help in internalization of education in the country of inculcate innovativeness. The draft document of NEP 2020 is a progressive one and formulated after consultation with all the stockholders. It is proposed to start systematic education of a kid from the age of 3 years. The key focus area of this policy is to develop manpower, encourage entrepreneurship, and generate employment. They will be given freedom for admission, teachers' appointments, concession from reservation quota, support for research, staff retrenchment, and layover. Private institutions can set their own norms for admission and fees fixation. Public institutions have to abide by directions given by government in this regard. Drawback of NEP. It seems to be formulated to give trust to privatization of education in India as visible from the document. Among other, it takes encouraging the top 100 foreign colleges to open their shops in India. Whether this is to further the case of education or facilitating profiteering is debatable. Although NEP 2020 talks of the need for greater transparency and especially in relation to fee structure, it does not indicate any roadmap on how to tackle the growing malady of capitation fees by private colleges, which are mostly run by powerful politicians and religious groups. Education for all will thus remain a distant dream. NEP 2020 does not tell how to operationalize and ensure the rights to education, especially for marginalized and deprived sections. And findings and its discussion, the National Education Policy laid a roadmap for progressive education, keeping a sense of ancient ethos of Indian tradition, culture, values to build new country with futuristic vision. India has got rich historical heritage with education rooted in since ages. NEP 2020 is formulated after wide consultation with stakeholders from all the sectors. It is aimed to provide multidisciplinary skill-based education to generate employment. It is aimed at increasing enrollment of students in all kinds of educational institutions by 2030. Hence, it also needs to introduce accountability of each stockholder at all levels. NEP 2020 is in accordance with D. 2013 that discussed about philosophy of customer-centric education. The argument is that such system will destroy a sense of education, and they talked about moral, ethical, cultural issues in it. NEP 2020 is aimed to revamp higher education in India. It will utilize the cooperation of international communities and their experiences will be utilized. Moreover, higher education provided in Indian universities and colleges under NEP 2020 will incorporate ICT to suit the need of the education in new normal post-COVID era. It has become meaningless to continue with outdated education system. On the part of the Indian government, a lot of changes would be required to be brought to curriculum of higher education, absorbing the global demand for receiving skilled manpower. The policy is bound to introduce revolutionary and innovative changes. Higher educational institutions, HEI, will come under ambit of one regulator from the present regime of multiple regulators. There will be liberal environment of autonomy to promote freedom of academic delivery, scope of research, and emphasis on innovation. Thank you.
Next, we have Sakshi Gosavi. She is presenting her paper on theoretical analysis of NEP 2020 from the perspective of design and implementation of NEP at national and higher education levels. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Sakshi Gosavi from Tsdc Thakur Shamnaran Degree College, Department of BMMC, Bachelors of Art in Multimedia and Mass Communication. Today I am going to speak on National Education Policy 2020 Abstract. Education has a key and deviation rule. In the scenario of contingency, the National Education Policy 2020 has been therefore been transferred into the framework of the reform, which could help to build a new education system in the country, in addition of strengthening those economic and social indicators that still need to improve. An autonomous college, we have critically examined that the policy in the paper proposed change to ensure a seamless. The current paper described the analysis of it, boosting its importance. The current paper described the analysis of the level recommendation and are made for the design and implementation of NESP at national and higher education. Introduction. After India fell behind the list, better quality university around the world recent years, it was expected that the government and the entire system would take some concert step to improve the matter, so that some improvement could be made. In this situation, keeping in view the development objective of the entire country, Indian government decided to change the Indian education policy after 34 years to formulated a new education policy. The central government in 2017 constituted a committee under the chairmanship committee drafted the National Education Policy in 2019 in India, July 2020. Central government approved the National Education Policy in connection with the approved Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi tweeted with the Minister of Human Resource Development made the public aware by the press conference. It was also clarified that the Minister of Human Resource Development has been renamed as Education of Minister. What is new education policy in India? Under the new education policy in India 2020, the education system has been fixed by 2013. The curriculum will be divided on the basis of the education system of 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. In place of the current running government has, in place of current running 10.2 model, the target of investment of central and state government has also been set for the new education system 2020, in which central and state government will invest education sector equally to 6% GDP of country for cooperation in the education sector. New Education Policy 2020 phase. The phase of new education policy are divided into 4 phases. In the new policy, it has been completely abolished. The old education policy was organized on the 10 plus 2 formula, but the new education formula is the base on 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 formula. The new pattern includes 3 years of schooling and 2 years of schooling. It has been made mandatory for government and non-government institutions to follow the new policy. Four steps of policy. Foundation stage of new education policy for 3 to 8 year children are included. The foundation stage has been fixed for 5 years, in which 3 years of preschool education will be done in Anganwadi, and class 1 to 10 will be educated, under which the language of skills and skill level to the student will be evaluated and focused in its development. Middle stage. The period of the stage has been fixed 3 years. In this stage, children from 6th grade to 8th grade have been included, in which subject-based curriculum will be taught, and coding will also be started from children of 6th grade. At the same time, all the children will give an opportunity for vocational testing, has vocational internship. Provision related to higher education. Gross enrollment ratio is higher education institution under National Education Policy 2020. It has been targeted in increase for 26.3% in the 2018 year to 15%. 3.5 crore new seat will be added in higher educational institution. The gross enrollment ratio is the number of total eligible population at an educational level who has taken admission in educational institution. For example, the total number of students in the age group eligible for admission to higher education is 100, but the admission taken by 60, then the ratio will be 60%. Challenges related to education policy. Cooperation. Education state is a concreted subject. This is why most states have the school boards. Therefore, the state government have to come forward for the actual implementation of the decision. Also, the idea of bringing a national higher education regulator campus has the top controller organization can be obsessed by the states. Expensive education. The new education policy, the way for admission to foreign university, various academics believe that the admission for foreign university is likely to expensive for Indian education system. As a result, it can be challenging for lower class students to pursue higher education. Suggestion for new education policy 2022. The initial 5 years are including in earlier childhood care education. It will be implemented through Anganwadi. First, Anganwadi should be converted into kid zone so that the child can get an education in sports also. One of the 2 Anganwadi workers should be replaced by Asha worker and psychiatrist, so that both education and health will be worked together. It is said that 85% are brave developed takes in place in this period. Therefore, to prepare a strong and capable generation in this skill, training will have to be made available for the children in this period. Will receive education class from 3 to 5 class in primary. Students between 8 to 11 year of age come. In this class, the child has to reduce and burden of book. In the phase, children should get an education through moral stories, so that the around developed of the children is possible. Bagless education should be imparted at this stage. Conclusion: the new education policy 2020, which has been approved by the central government to change the Indian education system to meet the need of 21st century in India. If it is implemented successfully, the new system will make India one of the world leading country under the new education policy 2020. Children from 3 years to 18 years have been placed under the Right to Education Act 2019. The aim of this new education policy, which came after 34 years, is to provide higher education to all the students, which aim unionization pre-primary education age range 3 to 6 years by 2025. Thank you.
Next, we have Assistant Professor Milind Gurchal from Department of FCEBS.
Very good afternoon to everyone. I Assistant Professor Milind Gurchal from Keli Society Science and Commerce College, Kalamboli, Navi Mumbai. I'm here to present my paper titled as Multidisciplinary and Holistic Approach in Higher Education with reference to NEP 2020. So, multidisciplinary approach or multidisciplinary education we talk about. So when we talk about multidisciplinary education, that means education where the multiple discipline learners enables education of the multidisciplinary at a very same time. That means, for example, a student who is learning in the arts faculty is eligible to learn the subjects of the science faculty as well. For example, multidisciplinary education was not new to us. In our ancient period, especially there was a mentioning of the 64 kalas in the Bana Bhatta's Kadambari also we have found, where the subject like music, literature, archery, all the subjects the learner used to learn various subjects at same duration of 4 years or 5 years. So, but in our current education system was not in that way. As we all aware that the previous national education policy of 1986 was not able to address the issue of multidisciplinary education. So, this NEP 2020 envisioned about the creating the multidisciplinary education in India. What is the aim of holistic and multidisciplinary education in India? That means it is nothing but the integration of humanities, arts with science, technology, engineering, and medicine. I have already told you that in our current education system, what is happening. For example, a student is studying in arts. He's studying the subject history, geography, that is which are belonging to the humanities. But what about if the same student or the same learner is interested in mathematics also? But our current education system do not allow such kind of multidisciplinary aspect to the learners. So in this NEP 2020, it is expected that such kind of multidisciplinary education will be feasible for the person who wanted to go with it. So a holistic and multidisciplinary education directly or indirectly helps to develop various skills in the form of development of aesthetic skills, social skills, intellectual, physical, moral, in a very integrated manner. So that's why the government has thought of making such kind of policy which is holistic and multidisciplinary, which is not abided by of any kind of boundaries, any kind of restrictions in achieving the goal of holistic and multidisciplinary education. What in what direction the government is achieving these goals. So first of all, the government is trying to set up the large multidisciplinary universities and colleges. That means the current restrictions will going to be removed. There will be a multidisciplinary colleges, there will be a multidisciplinary universities. That means a student can pursue a variety of subjects at a particular time. For example, if he is studying 4-year degree course, so throughout the 4 year of degree course, he may opt different subject of his or her choice. There will be no any kind of restriction to do some particular subject from that particular faculty. So that's kind of flexibility will be there in a curriculum designing also by the higher education institution, because now after once the national education policy will going to be implemented, the government will going to restructure the entire higher education institution by giving more and more autonomous, and in that direction there will be more emphasis on the research to create competitive skill among the students, develop the debate skills, communication, interpersonal skills, discussions, opportunities. So this education policy is talking about all these things. When the government through this national education policy, the government is again going to try to restructure the degree uh, program. That means currently there is a 3+2 plus PhD type of higher education in India, but the government try to introduce 4 year of degree program where the 1 year will be dedicated to the research. That means after completion of the 4 year degree course, the students will not going to suppose do again the 2 year master degree program. The program will be of 1 year duration, because the research component which is going to be there is already covered by the concerned students in his or her 4 year degree program. So this kind of restructuring of the duration of the course is expected through NAP 2020. Another aspect which is very important for holistic and multidisciplinary, that is the research and innovations. The NEP envision of setting up of multidisciplinary educational research university, which will going to be popularly known as MERU. On the as we already know that there are Indian Institute of Science, there are Indian Institute of Management, Indian Institute of Technology, such kind of national importance educational institutions are there. But Meru will be the concept where it will be implemented all across the country, maybe on the district level, maybe on the block level, so that in terms of quantity as well as the quality, the research will grow. There will be provision of creation of NRF, that is the National Research Foundation. So which will going to look upon the funding of research proposal, coordination among the industry, academia for the research collaboration. The entire things will be managed by the NRF. The NRF is also going to make a provision such that there will be a proper review of the research proposals, in-house review, or if we can say review by the expert from country, or in case of requirement, the review can be done by the international organizations also. uh, the government has also tried to do that. There are already some institutions which I have already mentioned: IITs, ISs, DRDO, ISRO, CSI. These institutions are making research, but when we talk about a number of patent application in India, it is very far behind, and we are far behind as compared with the countries like America and China. America and China, the patents annually filed in it goes in the number of lakhs, but where in Indian case we talk about, it is hardly in the thousands. So that kind of things we have to improve. So in concluding remark, we can say the multidisciplinary and holistic education, which is there in our national, which is one of the objective of our national education policy. It is nothing but to create a curious and creative mind, and develop the analytical and critical thinking among the learners at very early age. So it is nothing but we have to going to uh, bring back again whatever the multidisciplinary system we were having in our ancient times in India. So this is all about my paper. This is the some glimpse of my paper, or you can say the gist of my paper, which I would like to conclude in the stipulated time. So thank you once again. I'm very thankful to the entire organizing team of the National Education Policy Conference, which is organized by the Thakur Sham Narayan Degree College in association with the KLA Society. Thank you once again. Thank you all of you.
So next we have Dr. Shashikala Prajapati from Department of Zoology. She is presenting her paper on a study on awareness about the impact of National Education Policy 2020 among the stakeholder of science.
Good evening, all. Myself, Dr. Shashikala Prajapati. I'm going to present my paper on NEP 2020. The topic is a study on awareness about the impact of National Education Policy 2020 among the stakeholders of science. Abstract of the paper is to provide a quality education that is beneficial for economic growth of India is the main aim of NEP 2020. Science education plays an important role in all sectors of country's development like manufacturing, service industry, research and development forming the backbone of India. The NEP 2020 is aiming to develop creative potential, skill, and scientific thinking among students, which is the need for global competitiveness. Hence, all the curricula of science should be outcome oriented, wherein the stakeholders can know in prior what they are going to learn and how it is beneficial to them to achieve their goals. Research methodology, a sample size of 100 was used for the study. The data was collected through a structured questionnaire in the form of Google form. The data collected, it was analyzed by using the simple percentile analysis, and finally a chi-square test was applied in order to find out the effectiveness of new education policy among the teaching faculties and the students. The hypothesis is that null hypothesis, it says that there is no significant impact of NEP 2020 on the stakeholders of science discipline, whereas the alternate hypothesis, it says that there is a significant impact of NEP 2020 on the stakeholders of science discipline. Result and discussion. So table 1, it shows the demographic profile of the respondents. So respondents are assistant professors, students, parents, postgraduates, undergraduates, PhDs and others. These are male and females who are in the age group of 15 to 30 and 31 to 45. The figure 1, it shows the opinion of respondents on working with NEP 2020. So out of 100, 68 respondents, they are aware of the NEP 2020, and out of 68, 62, they find it easy to work with NEP 2020, whereas 10, they find it difficult to work with NEP 2020. Out of 100, 32 respondents, they are not aware of NEP 2020, but somehow they find it easy to work with NEP 2020, whereas 13 respondents, they find it difficult to work with NEP 2020. This is the table 2, which shows the respondents' opinion on the drawback of NEP 2020. So it indicates that 48 respondents, they had accepted that current NEP is not much concentrating on the career growths of the students, and 62 respondents, they feel that NEP 2020 is majorly subject oriented, and 72 respondents, they have recognized curricula under NEP. It is based on choice-based credit system, and 58 respondents have a view that the current NEP is based on memorizing capacity of students, and 56 stakeholders felt that NEP at present is not meeting the requirements of industry, and 52 respondents, they have an opinion that NEP is not attracting foreign students, and 42 respondents, they acknowledged that NEP is rigid and is not allowing students to opt for courses of many disciplines. And this pie diagram, it shows that NEP requires a set of skill development among the stakeholders, and 13% they agree that yes, skill must be required to work with NEP 2020, or skill must be developed to work with NEP 2020. Whereas 29 percent respondents, they were neutral, and they did not disclose their opinion on NEP 2020, maybe lack of knowledge on NEP 2020, and 19% they disagree with the requirement of skill to work with NEP 2020. Uh, this is table 3 that shows the chi-square analysis. So here chi-square value, it is 10.25, and the critical value here which is obtained, it is 1.943. So we can see that the chi-square value is more than the critical value. Hence, the null hypothesis is rejected and the alternate hypothesis is accepted. So alternate hypothesis is that NEP 2020 is having significant impact on the stakeholders of science, and the conclusion is that NEP 2020 affects the growth of Indian economy and affects the youth in achieving their goals. Any change in the present scenario will have both positive as well as negative impact. Hence, we must concentrate more on the positive impacts and adopt them effectively and work efficiently for the welfare of country. Hence, the study had enhanced the knowledge of NEP 2020 impact on the stakeholders of science discipline in a broader sense. These are some of the references which I have used, and these are arranged according to the alphabetical order. Thank you so much for listening.
Next, we have Assistant Professor Dipali Kadam from Department of Mass Media. She is presenting her paper on NEP 2020, a study of challenges and opportunities in higher education.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Assistant Professor Dipali Kadam, working as an HOD of the Department of Bachelor of Mass Media and Communication in KLE Society's Science and Commerce College, Karamboli, Navi Mumbai. My topic for the National E-Conference on NEP is NEP 2020, a study of challenges and opportunities in higher education. Now let's look at what is the meaning of national education policy and what is the importance of it. Now, as we talk about national education policy, it basically lays down the foundation for the development of the country's education system, and it is basically a comprehensive framework which is designed to improve potential capabilities of each and every individual, which leads to the socio-economic development of the society. Now, when we talk about NEP 2020, okay, what kind of framework that it has laid down for the students of Indian education system, that it basically focuses upon five basic points, that is affordability, accessibility, quality, equity, and accountability, which were basically missed in the earlier national education policy, that is the National Education Policy of 1986. NEP 2020, it is the first education policy of the 21st century which envisions to make India an attractive hub for higher education worldwide. Now let's move forward. What are the features of NEP 2020 in higher education institutions? The first and foremost recommendation that they have come up with is to setting up large multidisciplinary universities and colleges wherein the barricades of the students, okay, from going from one subject to another, okay, it is getting broken down. Second thing is wherein the GR in higher education system will be increased by 50% by the year of 2035. They have also come up with the making education in holistic in nature, wherein arts and humanities will be integrated with technology and engineering subjects for the positive outcomes in the students, and vice versa also will be done with engineering students. They can opt for arts and humanities subjects. Again, NEP 2020, they have specially focused upon that how these vocational courses can be merged with the mainstream education, okay, to come up with more and more skilled human base, wherein
the students of India, they will have more skill-based employability in future. Again, they have come up with the National Research Foundation, which is established to promote research in the country wherein we are lacking the most, the teachers, they are very few number of teachers in India, they are publishing their papers in the peer-reviewed journals, and also they are lacking in the finance. The next thing is they have also recommended to make undergraduate education for the years of 3 to 4 years, and they have also kept this multiple entry and exit programs which they have come up with, wherein any student, okay, if he or she wants to quit the education in the middle of their degree, right? So they can quit that education, but again they can take their admissions in the same course or else in other course if they want to. The government's decision to allow foreign universities to set up campuses in India is again commendable one, because they have allowed the top 100 foreign universities, some of them, okay, to come here and to set up their campuses for our Indian students, so that our Indian students, they can definitely get the exposure of the global education by staying in our own country. The faculty will be given the authority to take the curricular decisions for their own courses and to conduct research with academic freedom. And colleges which are affiliated affiliation will be phased out over the past over the next 15 years. It will be a stage by stage procedure, wherein the colleges will be graded with the autonomy, and because of which they will be able to set up their own curriculum, which is going to enhance the education in their own institutions. Now, as our paper is looking forward, that how this NEP 2020 is having a lot of opportunities, okay, which will overcome the challenges that higher education system in India is facing. The first challenge that our higher education system in India is facing is that our higher education system is severely fragmented, wherein students, they are just adhere to a particular particular course or particular degree, okay, and very few students, number of students are there who are living in the rural areas, or they are socio and economically they are they are not developing. So for them, higher education is not reaching out to them. Then higher education institutions, they are giving less emphasis on the development of the cognitive and vocational skills of the students and the learning outcomes of the students. We are coming up with various courses, okay, but we are not looking forward what will be the outcome of these courses, okay, and how it is going to benefit the students for their employability. Again, there is a limited access to the socio-economically disadvantaged areas, wherein your higher education institutions, they teach in local languages. Again, the numbers of teachers are less, and the institutions, they are having less autonomy also in terms of designing their own curriculum. Now, there is an insufficient system for the advancement of faculties in our higher education system, and again, we are also lacking in the merit-based career management. Most universities and colleges, they are also placing lower priority on the research, and of course there is a shortage of competitive peer reviewed research funding across the disciplines. So and at the when we talk about these challenges, the major challenges that we are lacking in the regulatory system, our higher education institutions regulatory system is basically very much ineffective in order to overcome these challenges. Now let's look at the opportunities that we have. Now, since we know that India is the third largest country in the world, which is having the largest educational system, and when we talk about Indian higher education sector, okay, it has been highlighted that India is one of the most attractive areas. Our higher education system is one of the most attractive areas for both the domestic and international investments in our country. So there are various opportunities for the strategic engagement and capacities building in higher education leadership and management at the state level, as well as at the national and international level, wherein when these international investment when these domestic organizations, when they will put up or invest their money into the higher education system in India, definitely it will enrich the quality of our education, right? We will have international credit recognition, and definitely there will be the uniformity of the framework of qualifications that our students will be getting. So now let's come to the conclusion. Whatever we have analyzed so far, we are reaching out to this conclusion that education, as we all know, it is the most important factor for the development of human beings. All all skills, whether it is moral skills, whether it is cultural skills, socio-cognitive skills, all skills. When we talk about education, this is the most important factor which we all have in our development. Now, when we talk about NEP 2020, it has actually introduced the whole gamut of reformations in the current education system in India. Higher education, for that matter, it plays a pivotal role in deciding upon the economic, social, technology adoption status, and also it creates a very healthy environment for the human behavior in every country. So our NEP 2020, it is basically it is marching towards achieving its objective by making higher education very much attractive, affordable, and improving its quality through various various recommendations that they have come up with. The National Research Foundation is one of the recommendations that they have come up with, wherein they are going to establish this NRF to fund innovative projects for the teachers, right, in the areas like sciences, applied sciences, social sciences, and humanity. And NEP 2020 recommends to make education system more multidisciplinary and disciplinary in nature, wherein higher education institute students will have the freedom to choose core and allied subjects within and across disciplines, wherein because of which the development of the students will happen in all-rounded manner. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Assistant Professor Indrayani Abhay Uthale from Department of Accountancy. She is presenting her paper on impact of National Education Policy 2020 on higher education in COVID pandemic.
Good morning. I, Assistant Professor Indrayani Uthale, would like to give the PPT presentation on impact of National Education Policy 2020 on higher education in COVID pandemic. So the content of the particular PPT is introduction, objective, hypothesis, research methodology, results, findings, conclusion, and the references. So the introduction of this particular PPT is National Education Policy 2020 and the higher education have become the prominent in the particular cities, and you can say, for example, during COVID-19, it has affected also. So impact of National Education Policy 2020 on higher education in COVID pandemic is my particular topic. So I've selected the two hypotheses, null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Null hypothesis says that the national education policy is not expected to bring the positive change, whereas alternate hypothesis says that national education policy brings the positive change. The objectives are national education policy is expected to bring the positive change, satisfaction level of the education system. Pandemic have brought the new set of challenges, overall personality of the student, and the factors affecting. So already I have explained the hypothesis, the null hypothesis, and alternative hypothesis. The research methodologies of this particular PPT is I have selected the region of Maharashtra and Karnataka. Especially the type of the particular research design is descriptive type. Data collected is primary as well as the secondary. Primary based on survey, secondary based on internet articles, etc. Sample size is 200. If we talk about the discussion regarding the particular results, if we consider the age wise, around 82% are covered between 15 to 20 age. Degree, if we considered, then undergraduates are more, that is 80% around. Education, if we talk about, they are undergraduate more than 80%. If we talk about the national education policy, they are having the idea. So around 70% we can say that they have having the knowledge of it. If we talk about the opinion about the factors influence on the higher education, yes, there are various factors, but most of the factor is related to the finance factor. Are you satisfied with the towards the national education system? Yes, they are agree with the satisfaction level 37%, and some people are not agree with this statement. The next was pandemic brought a new change in the set of challenges in front of the higher education. Yes, they strongly agree with 92% with this particular statement. If we talk about the particular overall personality of the students, then they say that it is increased due to the use of technology, and more students agree with this particular point also. If we talk about the digital learning has created learning gaps, yes, around 79% have created the gap. They are agree with this particular statement. The major research was about this particular 3 points. First was job applicants need to understand. Yes, so around 52% they say that job applicants need to understand the additional qualification. If we talk about the increasing, the higher education is commercialized. Yes, they agree with this point also. The national education policy is expected to bring the positive change. Yes, so around 42% people are saying agree, and some are neutral, and some are disagree to this. But more, we can say that more agree towards the positive findings of this particular. You can say, for example, the paper is national education policy is expected to bring the positive change. Yes, 42% have agreed, and 8% are strongly agree. So we can say that more percentage agree with the statement called as positive impact or long-lasting impact of higher education system due to national education policy. The limitations of this particular study are it is related to only Karnataka and Maharashtra. Time is very less, and we have covered only the students' responses. I would like to suggest that National Education Policy 2020 is much more in required in youth, especially they require practical knowledge. They require they should have the opinion about the digital learning as well. And the major is they should know the opinion about the higher education is becoming the commercialized. So I would like to conclude with the statement that we have selected the alternate hypothesis as per the research. So national education policy will bring expected to bring the positive impact on the higher education system. NEP 2020 will define a definitely a great moment for higher education, as well as it will implement a path breaking success. Here I have completed with all these particular PPT. These are my references, and thank you so much. Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. Fatima Sheikh from Department of English. She is presenting her paper on National Education Policy 2020 and equitable and inclusive quality education for all in question.
A very good afternoon to one and all. This is Dr. Fatima Sheikh. I'm head of English department, KLE College, Kalamboli. My paper is on NEP 2020. The title is National Education Policy, that is NEP 2020, and equitable and inclusive quality education for all in question. Now, you might have seen my title that though NEP 2020 says that, by 2014, everybody will be able to get an education irrespective of their gender, caste, religion, age factor, or socio-economical background as such. But my paper is looking into the reality factor, whether it is really going to be practical or not, giving equitable and quality education for all, at least by 2040. So that is my problem area, or that is the problem area of the paper that I'm going to look into. The content that you can see is abstract, introduction, vision of NEP 2020, issues of equity and inclusion in higher education, method, result, conclusion, and references, right? Now, let's talk about abstract. In my paper, I have said that, transforming India into a most powerful nation. We all are looking for generation who are educated and progressive in attitude. And not only in attitude, but in practice, who will be able to build up a more sustainable social, economic, and political system as such. And the new education policy 2020 is applauding the start towards transforming India into a very modern, progressive, and equal nation by 2040. But whether this is really going to actually happen or not is a big question. Hence, my paper will concentrate on the difficulties that will arise as a result of NEP's efforts to become a more inclusive and equitable education provider. Well, education is the most powerful tool, no doubt about it. It will promote social justice, equality in a larger society. But education for all, which is inclusive and equitable, is a crucial component of building an equitable and inclusive society for every person, where a person is dreaming of an opportunity to thrive and contribute to the nation, right? The Indian education system must be designed in such a way that will be benefiting the students so that no child is denied the opportunity to learn and thrive as a result of their birth and status. Now, bridging the socio-economic category disparities in school and education access, participation, and learning outcome will definitely be continued to, it will be continued to be a fundamental priority of all education sector development programs according to NEP 2020. But still, my question is whether it is really going to be able to include each and every child is the area where my paper is entering into a research. Now, next is the vision of NEP 2020. It envisions an India-centric education system that will contribute directly to transform our nation sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing a high-quality education for all. Remember, when you're looking into the vision, it says that it will be providing a knowledge society with high-quality education for all, right? Now, what are some of the issues? I'm not denying the fact that NEP 2020 will not be able to, gain its vision. It will definitely one day or the other will be able to gain a vision, but whether it is going to be able to gain a vision by 2040, and if at all it will be able to provide education to each and every child, that is a question, and that is a practical question my research paper is looking into. Now, why? Am I not agreeing completely with what NEP is saying, right? Because there are some issues of equality and there are some issues of inclusion in higher education. While the Indian education system and subsequent government policies have made steady progress in closing gender and social category gaps at all levels of education, large disparities still exist, particularly at the secondary level, especially for socioeconomically disadvantaged groups who have historically been underrepresented in education. Now, why? Because there are some issues that can be seen in the following area. Now, according to UDISE data from 1617, 19.6% of primary school students are from scheduled castes. However, this number lowers to 17.3 in the secondary school. But enrollment declined significantly for scheduled tribe student, that is from 10.6% to 6.8%, and differently abled students from 1.1% to 0.25%, with far larger drops for female students in each of these categories. Enrollment in higher education has plummeted even more drastically. Then second is the scheduled caste enrollment and retention rates have been negatively impacted by a number of factors, including a lack of access to a good school or poverty, social mores, customs, language, etc. Tribal groups and children from scheduled tribes face a number of difficulties due to historical and geographical factors as such, which I have not elaborated much looking into the time constraint of the presentation. And then, of course, there is yet another issue that is minorities are underrepresented in both secondary and post-secondary education. So these are some of the issues that my paper is looking into and denying the, I will not say completely, but to some extent that equitable or inclusive education is going to be possible at least by 2040, right? Now, my paper has come to that conclusion using a following methodology and pulled out a following result. I have used a survey method and it's descriptive in nature where, I have sent a questionnaire to more than 500 people where it included students as well as people from different educational field and sectors as such. I wanted to find out, my paper wanted to find out rather whether NEP stands in providing an inclusive and equitable quality education for all or not. Now, what my survey has zeroed down to is on certain variables such as whether it is education, whether it is gender, whether it is socioeconomic factor, whether it is disability, whether it is geographical variant or so on, people have to more of an extent they have agreed that yes, at least by 2040 then there is going to be a drastic change where people will be or children will be able to have equal opportunity with regarding to education, that is equitable and inclusive opportunity. But on two such variables, That is, one is affordability and attitude, whether it is attitude of the parent, attitude of relatives, attitude of the society, etc. Now, on those two variables, respondents believe that these are the two factors that have the greatest impact on the inclusiveness and equitability of quality education for all. And they say that, apart from other variants, these two variants, that is affordability and attitude, there is always going to be, a disparity which will always exist with regarding to education. And that really is never going to make education inclusive or equitable to everyone in question. So finally, my research, that is my research paper, is ending on a positive note, thinking that, of course, there are certain disparities and there are going to be disparities. That is, it's not going to be 100% possible that education is going to be inclusive and equitable for every child in the future. But still, my paper concludes on a positive note, saying that, NEP 2020, no doubt, is a positive step forward, for everyone in the country. Stakeholders in the education industry accept a transition and expect that a transition in curriculum to accommodate technology, and then teachers' role and employment situation have been taken into consideration or will be taken into definitely consideration to a great extent. The goal of NEP 2020 is commendable, no doubt, but putting it into action will be a little challenging. And how well the plan is going to be implemented at the grassroots level of our educational system will determine a lot. And then implementation of NEP 2020 will be facing a numerous challenges, but surely the NEP 2020 will surely break down boundaries between curriculums, bringing varied subjects together, which is a vital thing for the new generation jobs. And also all the stakeholders in education, including academics, institute owners, and regulatory authorities, will need to change the mindsets. Digitalization, of course, will have a significant impact on pedagogy. Rather than simply sharing information, the focus will shift more to employability and quality, whereas NEP 2020 is concerned. And on the other hand, yes, there is one more thing, that traditional education will always be a continuous process. But training, development, and upgradation would be mandatory for both student and staff. And NEP, no doubt, will forever transform the nation's intellectual and socio-economic foundation if it is properly planned, designed, and implemented. Right? So with this, I end up with my PPT presentation. Thank you all for giving me an opportunity to present the paper on today's e-conference platform. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
So next we have Assistant Professor Kshamta Chavan from Department of Mass Media and Assistant Professor Rajshri Bhodkhade from Department of English.
Good morning, everyone. This is Assistant Professor Kshamata Chavan presenting a paper on NEP 2020. So the title of my paper is Comparative Analysis of Media Coverage of National Education Policy 2020 with special reference to Times of India and the Indian Express. Talking about the paper, I am the author and my co-author is Assistant Professor Rajeshri Borkade. We belong to KLE College, Kalamburi. Talking about the abstract of my paper, media is one of the powerful tools to form public opinion on current events. So media is one of the gateway where all the information is passed, and that is the reason why the researchers like I and Rajeshri ma'am are trying to cover the media coverage of National Education Policy 2020. So our goal was to find out the new change in NEP 2020 and how the media has covered the entire policy. Now, education is one of the important right which every human must possess. So India is gaining certain changes in education. We are moving upon to the technology so that our education system can strengthen a lot. So National Education Policy is India's first education policy which is created addressing the country's many expanding developmental imperatives. So in this paper, we will be comparing such media coverage of National Education Policy 2020 by covering various parameters. We want to know how the media reporters have reported the news of policy, how they have conducted the analysis of national education policy, their advantages and disadvantages, implementation process, etc. Now here we have chosen two portals. The one is Times of India and other is Indian Express. So the research methodology which we are using is exploratory research design. Okay, in exploratory research design, it is one of the research design where we don't have any kind of secondary data. For the first time, we are covering such topic, and we are comparing two news websites of Times of India and Indian Express, how they have covered the entire news of national education policy. And the research method which we are using is a comparative analysis. In comparative analysis, we are comparing two websites based on 5 parameters, that is language, opinion, then infographics, then points which are not covered, and finally the focus on which they have put an emphasis on in the entire news. Now the limitations of our paper was we are trying to compare only two news portals. The research is covering only the data which has been highlighted on the web portals, and the research is limited to news related to the explanation of NEP 2020. So there were a lot of news which were covered by media, certain political opinions of certain political leaders, but we are only stick to explanation of National Education Policy 2020. So these are our 5 parameters, which is language, focus, infographics, point not covered, and opinion. So finally, what we concluded in our research is when we talk about Times of India, language, first of all, talking about the language, which was very easy to understand to the readers, and it was only focusing on the new reforms that was added in the new education policy. Information about vocational education seemed to be missed, so there was no point included anything regarding vocational education in their news, and it was limited to conveying the news minutes and changes and added in the policy. So they were only talking about the changes and they haven't explained anything in brief. The media coverage of TOI lacks creativity and text. So when we talk about infographics, there was only one infographic to explain the entire news, which I felt or which we felt incomplete. Then there was no personal opinion was found, but when we see the tone and style of the entire news, okay, it was quite neutral. Then talking about Indian Express, language was little moderate and it was really difficult to understand to the readers because of the syntax and semantics they have used in the news. Focused on the reforms in the new education policy, they too have focused on certain changes or certain newness in the policy. Information about vocational education seems to be missed. So in both the papers or in both the news websites, we found that vocational education was not highlighted much, and it focused on implementation and benefits for school and higher education and associated benefits to the universities. So what they were doing is they were focusing on implementation, that how this policy will be implemented, what benefits the higher education or the school education, and also apart from the these educations, universities will get. So they were focusing on that a lot, and the points which they highlighted, it was verified, okay, by the concerned authorities courts. Then Indian Express is more appealing and attractive due to the usage of creative infographics. So we found more than 5 creative infographics as compared to Times of India. So, and it was giving a lot of brief information along with the captions which was highlighted. The details are mentioned in the paper itself. Then no personal opinion was found. So there was also no biased opinion or no personal opinion we found in the Indian Express, but it was stepping towards the positivity. So this was the overall paper from our side. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Rahul Zaveri and Divik Pawar. They are presenting their paper on a critical analysis of various facets of new education policy 2020.
Very warm welcome to everyone. My name is Deep Pawar.
And my name is Rahul Zaveri.
We are from FIBAMMC and today our topic is upon
A critical analysis of various facets of new education policy 2020.
So let's start with the abstract. It was an extended wait of 34 years for the country to examine a brand new education policy 2020.
The drafting committee gave its final draft to the Union cupboard for its approval, and it absolutely was accepted and approved on the 29th of Gregorian calendar month 2020.
The new policy aims to pave the approach for reform, restructure, for the better education, for the better infrastructure, for this was one and all the main steps talking to be much needed reform within the education system of the country.
The target of the study is to research the areas where the policy has planned action, however they appear terribly shabby. It's unacceptable to possess a policy wherever we'd like to make an entire infrastructure.
Moving on to the next slide is from the introduction. On the 2019 of July, Bharat saw the sunshine of recent education policy, a pair of 2020 that received the approval of the Modi 2.0 government.
It absolutely was 34 years long that the country waited to induce this document approved.
As COVID-19 has recommended several challenges ahead of the education establishment, what proportion this new policy goes to reshape the necessity of the country may be weighed and what's sufficient.
The mode of teaching and learning is currently modified. Offline teaching is currently online.
So moving on to the next slide, the vision of the policy. The National Education Policy 2020 adherence into the education system, non-moving in Indian attribute that contributes on the remodeling India, that's Republic of India.
It aims to sustain and be aware of prevailing spirited data society by providing high quality education to any or all, while not having any discrimination of faith, gender, caste, or creed, giving all equal platforms to grow and develop.
It's additionally a step creating India a world data. Uh,
Moving on to next, challenging implementations of vocalization in primary stage.
As we have a tendency to state the world fashionable instructed, fashionable gadgets, fashionable set, USA, we have a tendency to can jointly should see, however, do vary. We have a tendency to get to be into the progressive world.
These days, we have a tendency to state the most recent development and latest gadgets.
The education ministry should push to come back up with the suggestion that by which it think to tackle the digital divide and also the gender difference inside digital technology.
The mentality of families should be modified from a bigger perspective. Moving on to the next, creation of regional languages.
NEP 2020 provides stress on establishing a national education technology forum to advance digital learning and digital e-concept content.
It conjointly includes an arrangement to produce a similar content in 8 totally different regional languages. The suggestion is nice and is job a wider space of all are taking regarding being progressive not solely in thoughts however conjointly in action.
NEP 2020 talks of education from elementary colleges. Education was can rejointly the idea of nationalist leader UN agency can rejointly spoke of education for growth and for living education that ends up in the living.
Freedom of school readiness. The NEP 2020 speaks of school readiness that associates degree in probably sensible thought.
We tried to administer proprietely to get a foundation of learning to each new learners that's addiction to the system.
It's reaching to passing troublesome of achieving the goal while not prejudicial modifications and resource allocations.
If the system wants these modifications, then UN agency goes to supply the resources that's needed.
The rise in GDP for education sector. NEP 2020 talks concerning the high customary of universities that may view with the colleges of world name.
It's 74 years since independence, still India has not been ready to establish one university of a world customary that may even be brought within the high 200 university list within the world.
We tend to don't have any existing universities equipped to view the colleges of the world. We discover something to come back into action take years in India. Moving on next, teacher appoints and requirements.
NEP 2020 extremely shows its concern towards the teachers' believable ma- mandatory teaching posts in the university, colleges and faculties, square measure vacant, and lots of measure run on part.
The government prepares affiliation norms for any personal establishments to follow at the time of their institution and have millions of criteria decide and judge its performance from time to time.
Students don't get active expertise within the BCE laboratory. Going on to the next slide, creation of knowledge economy.
When we scanned the documents of National Information Commission 2005, we discovered the various sections it's been divided and it talked extremely regarding building a information society, information net, information economy. However, it's nearly 15 years. Let's recall on what we have achieved until date through that commission.
The NEP 2020 aims to form a knowledge-based economy that needs its pupils to own the development, the mixture of skills and period that scientific temperament to boost employment opportunities.
During this state of affairs, several are attending to be ignored kind of tutorial institute and plenty of can drop go in one stage of life.
Even the government establishment of upper education are charging really high. The fees vary from 2 to like 1 lakh, 1 lakh for A and master in business. Going on to the next slide.
Corruption in education sector and lack of financial resources.
Corruption in the education sector is a major concern for every student. If you need a mark sheet, you have to pay under the table.
Request the universities of certificate you will have to buy but only after giving some extra payment to those who will reach them to you.
Lack of financial resources is a major concern for policy implementation.
Teachers recruitment is now seen from a long time that it is the contract basis and no permanent teachers are recruited in many government institutions.
Even well-known institutions like Kendriya Vidyalaya are seeing the teachers' requirement done on a contract basis or ADHOC basis.
It is a matter of recognition of the merit that would be the key of reconstruct the Indian education system.
But going one step forward, I would like to say this policy is nothing new as it is concerned on the concept of basic education of Gandhiji, who talked of education that helps a person to earn his livelihood.
Just as Gandhiji said that education should be job oriented, that provides money to live, education means bread and butter.
So when this policy talks of skill development exit at any stage during a course, if a person is eligible to earn his bread and butter, he should be allowed to exit with a proper certificate or a degree, even if he has achieved the minimum level of learning.
The future of Education Policy 2020 will all depend on the political will and the system that is going to offer to the nation. Thank you.